Hello, everybody. Today is July 14th. We're here with another episode of the news, and we're doing business and security. Was it business? It was business. It was business.
It's always business on Wednesday, almost always. Let's start with some hardware news. If you are serious about having the most hardcore phone on the market, Razer had that gaming phone, but there's a new king possibly in town.
ASUS.
However,
ASUS gaming phone.
No, Razer did the other one, right?
I thought the ASUS one was like insane.
Razer did one too, though.
Okay.
Oh, right. ASUS did the ROG one. Yeah. Well, now they got another one. That's even better.
The third.
Qualcomm and ASUS make a phone for Snapdragon Insiders. It's going to enter general availability in August, but Engadget's got the scoop on this, which is probably under NDA. It's a $1,500 headset with a pair of master and dynamic true wireless ANC earbuds.
It's all souped up on that new Snapdragon 888 and all the hotness.
2.84 gigahertz 8-core with an Adreno 660 GPU and 144 hertz LCD refresh rate. Okay.
I'm not sure what I'd use it for. I guess TikTok. I mean, I don't use TikTok, but if I was a TikTok user, boy, could that burn through some TikToks, I'm sure. Another company is in a bit of a pickle because they did something, and this kind of harkens back to the whole Apple battery thing.
Yeah.
Their excuse admits that they did it, but they just claim they did it for a different reason, and that makes it okay.
OnePlus 9 series removed from Geekbench. Update: OnePlus gives a statement. This is the first time OnePlus has been hot water over benchmark cheating issues. Slowed by 75%. Oh no, it's intentionally slowing down apps to save battery, but wait, it's not.
So OnePlus claims that they do have code in there. They have software that manages that kind of thing to make the best possible experience for the user and to treat the battery as easily as possible. And this is just a drawback.
Side effect of that, yeah.
Geekbench disagrees.
Yeah, Geekbench is like, nope, get out.
It does seem like they might have pulled a little bit of a Volkswagen here. A little bit of detection with the old benchmarking software.
Oh, you didn't continue your review.
All right.
Oh yeah. It's so the thing about this that's nice is that it's not syrupy like a Sprite, because I think a Sprite is a little syrupy, but it's definitely got the vitamin flavor, like the Flintstones flavor, but it's covered up by the carbonation and the citrus flavor.
How does it compare to like a 7-Up or a Sprite or something?
It's very similar to a 7-Up or a Sprite, except way less syrupy. And about as much carbonation.
So wait, is that one not
7-Up.
orange flavored?
No.
Well,
it has an orange on the front.
Lemon, lime, and orange. Citrus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if there's just a splash of orange. It's not really, but I can definitely taste the vitamin C and the vitamin D, or maybe not vitamin C. It doesn't say that on the thing, but it's got that Flintstones vitamin chalkiness to it.
Sounds so delicious.
5 calories. It's pretty. This is actually probably hydrate, refresh, refuel. This would be a good drink after painting my garage door.
I love how
very specific use case.
You always include in your reviews like what you should be doing while you consume this thing. And the Pakistani reaction channel that I watch, they do the same thing. They're always like, you know what? I should be under a tree next to a river when I eat this. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, this would be very satisfying if I was like, sanding to get the paint to stick, and then it's like, oh, okay, I've got to wait a little bit for this coat to dry before I put the second coat on. I take a swig.
It's 90 degrees, sunny.
Yeah.
The garage is pushing the heat back to you.
I kind of doubt that the ice company, like their marketing, is very much targeted toward contractors.
Probably not, no. Although that's probably what I'm going to be doing after this recording, so I mean, it's fine. Trying to get that in between the rain.
It's supposed to rain for like a week straight.
Yeah, I don't want the door to absorb any more water. It's already puffed up like a balloon.
Oh, you're getting... I had that for a while.
Yeah.
It's
just the humidity.
Well, mine was... we don't need to talk about my house burns. Well, FTC, Miss Lena Khan, once again, boy, is she making headlines. It seems like as soon as she got in there, she started doing a lot of stuff. And one of them is a very well-known name in the chip world.
The FTC has charged computer chip supplier Broadcom with illegal monopolization. They found some documentation, if you will, between Broadcom and other suppliers that put Broadcom competitors at a disadvantage with those suppliers. You're not allowed to interfere with relationships that, a competitor might have with somebody that you're supplying product to. That's not okay in U.S. law. So,
but the chip makers have so much leverage now.
Yeah.
So they're taking advantage of it. We'll see. I think they are probably absolutely guilty of what they're being accused of here.
What's crazy to me is that Broadcom is definitely a much more egregious example of the kind of behavior that Qualcomm was accused of, and they previously went after Qualcomm first. And I think that Qualcomm is one of the least bad actors with regard to those kinds of charges.
But they're so big.
They are big.
Do they just get a slap on the wrist, like here's a fine, and then?
I think as I was kind of alluding to in the last episode, I think that there's several stories here that are designed to fast track some of this to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to say, nah, this is just capitalism. I think that they don't know how the state courts will rule, and they don't know, like this is in California, I think, and they're not 100% sure how that'll go, because this won't go in Broadcom's favor in California. But if they can get to the Supreme Court and get this in front of them, then I think that there's nothing to worry about if you're a large tech company, because the Supreme Court, with the people that we have on the Supreme Court right now, absolutely will side with Broadcom.
But Qualcomm didn't get a slap on the wrist. They got crushed. I mean, it's still appellate, but...
well, they were successful in their appeal, but then I think the appeal was appealed.
Right. It hasn't shaken out yet. But if they have to pay that fine, it's massive.
Yeah. I doubt that they will, just because of all the documentation showing how Apple... I would be surprised, because Apple really, really screwed up that case. Despite any bad acting that may have been present on Qualcomm's side, the behavior from Apple was worse. But we'll see.
Well, we've known this is coming for a while, but it actually happened. We now no longer have Lex Luthor at the helm of the world's largest online retailer, although he's kind of still there.
Yeah. Amazon begins a new chapter as Bezos hands over the CEO role. Why, you might ask? It's so Jeff Bezos can go to space. No self-respecting company would let their CEO go to space because it's unnecessary for them to be CEO. It is unnecessary risk. So he's going to space now that he's not CEO.
Don't let him come back.
Do you think that when he gets back, he'll just walk into that office and be like, all right, you're done?
Yeah, it's like...
Almost certainly. That'd be hilarious.
We've created a new role at Amazon. I don't know.
That guy, the new guy, what's his name? Bloomberg. But, he's sitting there and he keeps like calling maintenance and he's like, guys, why is the nameplate not installed on my door yet?
Don't worry about it.
And they're like, there's work orders and we're going to do that in a couple weeks.
We ordered it from Amazon. It's not here yet. I don't know, dude.
I hope he enjoys retirement. I mean, maybe he won't come back. Maybe he will retire and he could, live out his days on this giant Rhode Island-sized yacht.
I mean, he's not retired though. He's still got a position in the company, just not CEO.
Well, but he said he's not going to stop working with Blue Origin and the other little projects he has.
Because he's got to, become Lex Luthor.
But how do you step back from that level of corporate power? What do you do with your life after that?
I don't think you
try to get off the planet.
Yeah.
That's his only goal.
Terraform Venus? I mean, it'd be like Kurzgesagt said that was like the, an undertaking like building the Great Pyramids. Yeah, kind of.
Do we have to use slaves?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going. That's the way we're headed.
I mean, if you look at the warehouse workers at Amazon, aren't those basically already slaves? I mean...
You ever read a book about the building of the pyramids?
Yeah, it's really horrifying.
Yeah, they had that... I don't know if it's true.
They had pee bottles.
The thing that always struck me about that is when the burial happened, how many people had to be buried alive with the king?
Yeah.
That's got to be a rough one.
Yeah, you're just in the dark, waiting to die.
Yeah.
People are crying around you.
With the stink.
Yeah. There's no bathroom. They didn't build a bathroom in the pyramid.
Why would you?
Just like a warehouse. There's a warehouse.
Well, we talked about Google, and they're getting some pressure about the whole App Store thing, and this was a big part of that because this is the damning evidence that the FTC is going to be looking at.
Google feared the Samsung Galaxy Store and tried to quash it, a lawsuit alleges. This also came up in the state cases as well, where the states are suing Google over the whole Play Store thing. Basically, Google does allow side loading, but they make it as difficult as possible. And so even if you have, competition in app distribution is a virus to be eliminated. Yeah, that's the direct quote.
I mean, it sounds so evil.
It sounds like something from The Matrix. Humans are a virus.
Yeah, that would be a perfect agent from The Matrix. So who was attributed for that? Somebody at Google, but I don't know what the name was.
Agent Smith.
And
we've learned since then we shouldn't put such things in email.
Yeah.
Only ravens from now on.
So
and
that
the
was
messages will be burned.
That was Samsung, but they immediately took the same tactic with everybody else, and they realized that they had to monopolize.
We have side loading, we just don't want to tolerate it. We have side loading so that if somebody comes along in lawmaking, we can point at Apple and say, but they don't have side loading, and we're better than them. There's only 10% as much lead in the water. We promise nobody's going to die soon.
I read this headline, and I was like, wow, I'm going to be surprised to see if they actually did that. But then you read who's involved, and you're like, oh, none of the really evil, powerful ones.
Yeah.
These guys, unfortunately, don't have any clout behind their words.
Privacy-focused tech companies call for ban on targeted advertising. Companies like DuckDuckGo and Vivaldi and ProtonMail. Well, of course they would call for that. We have Google in there. Maybe Mozilla. Is Mozilla in there? Oh
no.
I don't think.
Not at all.
I think somebody pretty high up in the Biden cabinet would pick up the phone for Google. I don't think anybody will for Vivaldi. And I'm not
who?
I'm not saying that's the right thing. I'm just saying that's the world we live in. So, God, if we got rid of targeted advertising overnight, that would destroy the economy, don't you think?
No, it would destroy some marketing agencies that haven't gotten with the program.
But you don't understand the knock-on effect.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a massive blow. It would have to be done slowly.
It seems like, at least for younger people, I guess targeted advertising kind of works, but like usually it's more like influencer based, right?
Well, no, actually, we got a story coming up, Krista, about the console gaming. The marketing people in that, they were like, we can't, if you're like 7 to 13 years old, we don't know where you are. We can't get you. And we're desperate. We need to target you.
Maybe just wait till they're an adult to start
No,
aggressively advertising to kids. But
we need you to buy He-Man toys and feel nostalgic.
Indoctrination, Krista. That's the important part.
We need you to remember the joys of typing on a Beam Spring keyboard, so you'll seek out lots and lots of Beam Spring keyboards late in life and do stuff.
Yeah, that's a real common one.
Yeah. Everyone's been there.
Well, we heard about the other problem with the banking app, and what was it, Klarna?
Yeah.
The Swedish one?
Yeah.
This one's a little bit of a different story. If you remember, Klarna was like, oh, you guys got us. It was actually a pretty minor error, but we're going to take it really seriously. Yeah. Nobody lost any money. Nobody was exposed or anything like that, but we're going to work with the regulators. And contrast that with this.
A banking app has suddenly been closing accounts, sometimes not returning customers' money. This is a ProPublica.org story. Basically, this is one of those, new financial technology.
It's called Chime
apps. Yeah. And it's like, I can use this. It has millions of customers, and they just decided to start closing accounts because, quote unquote, fraud. But when they close your account, they don't really tell you and give you any warning and make it difficult to get your money. And so this article has stories about a lot of people who got screwed. This is not, this happened with Chase really early on. I know somebody that was just playing with like $1,000 of Bitcoin transactions, and Chase immediately was like, oh, we see that you sent Bitcoin to an exchange. We're going to close your account.
They call themselves a neobank. I guess that's just purely online, no brick and mortar.
Yeah, this sounds just like regular traditional banks to me.
Now you mentioned Chase. They did compare and contrast this with Chase and I think Morgan Stanley, who both have online app-based things.
They have less complaints.
Well, they had roughly the same number of complaints. It was pretty close, actually. But those two companies are infinitely larger.
Well, yeah.
They have so many more accounts.
The proportion was much smaller.
The percentage is... So they're like, oh, well, maybe there is something to this whole Chime thing.
Can't you report that to like the government?
That's
the government oversees, yeah.
So I don't know if it's FINRA. That might just be stock market. But you have the Better Business Bureau and then something else.
You literally can't, okay, you're not going to allow any new transactions. Allow me to use my card to do a transfer out of there.
You can't even get into the account.
They're a neobank.
Yeah, that should be forbidden by law. Like, you should always be able to get your money out.
I'm pretty sure it is, isn't it?
I think it is, but I don't think that they're going to get, I don't think anything bad will happen to them.
Unless this online banking is a new kind of...
Something to get around regulations.
Right,
we've defined ourselves as something else.
Like PayPal.
Yeah.
One guy described, all he had in the world was $10,000, and he put it all into Chime and lost it all.
Yeah.
How could you sleep if all of your money, it's only $10,000 and it's in one spot?
There's so much economic pressure on the average citizen. Those kind of situations are going to cause somebody to go postal.
Have you seen the news?
Just look at Twitter trending at any point during the day.
Yeah, it's pretty much every day. Yeah. Well, the UK, boy, we have learned in the past 2 years that chip manufacturing is very, very important. And here in the US, we are severely lacking. But our politicians are like, oh, let's get on this. Let's make chips. Meanwhile, in the UK, they're selling everything. They lost an arm, and now...
Chinese-owned firm acquires the UK's largest semiconductor manufacturer. Was it Nexia or Next something like that?
Nexperia.
Nexperia. That's close. So they want to buy the largest chip maker in the UK.
The politicians have obviously spoken out about this and say that it must be reviewed, and they are against it.
Are they going to get Huawei?
They might. I don't know. It probably depends on the lobbying power of Nexperia.
Oh, no.
Well, we got the big employment issue here in the U.S. I think it's pretty much global, isn't it?
Yeah.
And people are less willing to take crappy jobs. And that seems to be something that is not changing. And it's changing the way things work in the gig economy.
Uber, Lyft, and Sweeten? I've never heard of that.
No,
Sweeten?
Oh.
Lyft Sweeten.
That's a verb.
That's the, yeah.
Sweeten, yeah. Uber and Lyft sweeten the job perks amid driver shortage and lofty fares because there's a shortage.
So when there's fewer drivers on the road, the fares go up. And the fares being high is the only thing that is convincing someone to drive for Uber or Lyft, because it's a nightmare to drive for Uber or Lyft. And Uber and Lyft are trying to figure out ways to get them to drive without paying them more.
Wow, that's a lot better.
There's a whole world out there.
I can see.
So, yeah, they're trying to actually give them back some of the old perks that they took away.
Oh, you guys are angry and not wanting to work? We'll give you your perks back.
You know, a lot of
Strange
people
how that works.
Probably remember that time they got an email from Lyft, or was it Uber, that said, hey, we noticed you've been driving a lot for us. Would you like some things like health insurance? And then people clicked on it and it was like, psych, just kidding.
They
Yeah.
were going to give them like $200 a month.
Yeah.
But it was just California.
Yeah.
But they emailed everybody.
Oops.
That would leave a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. We covered this one last week too, but there's a little bit more info in this article.
You know what? We're skipping it.
Okay.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's okay.
We don't even have to coordinate with Krista. It's so easy. It's so easy to skip now.
Woo.
This one is, it seems obvious. I'm surprised it took them this long, but it is also just purely indicative of how awful the world is.
Yes.
TV style commercials are coming to game consoles. When you're in between levels waiting on Monster Train to load, maybe you could get a Blitvert. I don't know.
I truly believe that video card driver installers are purposely slower than they need to be because they're
Yes.
showing me ads.
Yes. I also believe that.
That's insidious.
This is the one, Krista, where they were talking about they can't figure out, because children are by default now what they describe as cord cutters, and they don't know how to get to them. So this is their way of like, we have to advertise to these kids. How can we do it? Put it in the video games.
Sometimes I just want to opt out of modern society.
Now here is the most terrifying part of this, because we are our own worst enemy, as with most things. When a free-to-play multiplayer battle arena game from Tencent used this, players were 22% more likely to spend money than they were with a game that didn't use advertisements. So the way they're doing it is, when you watch an ad, they feed you a little crumb. They give you something in-game, a digital asset. And then you get a taste of that and you're like, I want more of these. And then you buy some.
No, thank you.
It's
like watching the Level 1 news on YouTube, but pretty soon you're subscribed on Patreon and or Flowplane.
You get a little taste of something else.
I
I
would compare it more to the drug cartel business model.
Oh yeah, here, have some crack. Oh, you want to buy some crack? Cool.
First taste is always free.
I don't even think that's true. I think drugs are like they're so good at being sold by themselves, you don't even have to do that. Well, we got the new version of Windows coming, and we've seen more. Did you guys see any more of it last week? I think there were some more images. Yes. But here's a big one, and it's not really a big one. It's actually a non-story, but I'm amazed. I haven't seen it yet, but I imagine if I looked at Twitter, I would, that people aren't angry about this.
I haven't seen it trending, but it's kind of niche.
But I mean, just because of the color they chose. Because it's like Black Monday or black, don't associate. Or black, remember black holes? The guy that said that had something to do with race?
Well, read the headline so they know what we're talking about.
Microsoft's blue screen of death is changing to black in Windows 11.
There's a picture in this article.
There were some Smurfs that complained it was racist.
I assumed not that, but I assumed it was more like if someone, people like dark mode. So I assumed it would just be like, oh, we don't want you to be blinded when you get the error message.
The assumption that The Verge made is that they've changed the log on and lock screens to black as well.
Yeah.
So this just matches it. Also in the preview build, they're all green.
Yeah.
So, why not just let us choose the color, right? Avoid all this.
I want yellow. White text on yellow.
Maybe build an operating system where you should never see that.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's unrealistic.
You're going to pretend there's never a kernel panic on this thing?
Yeah.
This thing falls apart weekly.
Poor Rosie.
Well, moving on to security, and this one's a little bit of an abstract security story, but you have to think about, like, if they can tell this from your Fitbit, what else can they tell from your Fitbit?
Fitbits detect lasting changes after you're infected by the thing, according to the New York Times. So this is, Fitbit data. They got a lot of Fitbit data that was quote-unquote anonymized, but they were able to tell, hey, wait a minute, somebody's fitness level and their heart rate and all this other data is way off after they've recovered.
And they didn't even know necessarily in their data who had it and who didn't. They were able to extrapolate that from the Fitbit data. So, enjoy that health monitoring that you got going on there.
Maybe, just, again, go the American way. Don't ever see a doctor. Don't wear a Fitbit. Just live your life in ignorance.
And then, like, one day out of the week, set aside to put the Fitbit on your pet. And to exclude that from your own data, but they don't know.
Ooh.
And then you get a call, and it's like, your cat has cancer.
How do you know I have a cat? We know, sir.
We know about Mr. Giggles. Well, here is, we've seen this story before. It was slightly different, but I don't know if this is just more narrative or they've discovered something new, but it sort of reinforces it.
Code in huge ransomware attack written to avoid computers that use Russian keyboards, says a new report. They don't want to annoy the local authorities, and they know that they'll be able to run their business much longer if they do it this way. This is, of course, talking about the Kaseya thing.
Yeah, so actually this is out of order. We should have talked about that first. But we didn't. So this one is really terrifying because we are used to seeing these kinds of headlines from China because the Chinese government, they don't care about their people's privacy, and the people seem to be used to that. But this is not just sold in China. This is a worldwide thing.
Reuters reports that this prenatal test developed with Chinese military analyzes your genetic information from a drop of blood is stored for the Chinese military.
Now, according to Reuters, you send in your blood, and when you send in blood, you send in more blood than they need.
And it's going to Hong Kong.
Well, but I'm saying, like, that's standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
Remember the Theranos thing?
Yeah.
Because that was supposed to be their business model. It's like, oh, we don't need that much blood. No, they do. Everybody does. But if you do things right, you will have a little bit left over, which should be off to the incinerator. Well, it turns out maybe it's not going to the incinerator.
No.
The concern that I saw about this was that if they have a big enough database of information, they could, in theory, generate diseases that are tailored to certain genetic components that they
How
find.
would the Chinese generate diseases, Krista? That's false.
Yeah, no, that would never happen.
It also makes it difficult, like for spycraft. It's like if you have a spy that has a fake backstory, you can run the genetic information and be like, "Oh, I see your third cousin lives in London."
Every day we're getting closer to Gattaca.
I've got some good news. Your second cousin is pregnant, and I've got some bad news. You're going to be tortured to death.
Looking forward to those new kidneys.
Well, we know about Revil and Cozy Bear and all those funny names. Now we got another one, SideCopy, but they have a different target than we're used to.
SideCopy, cyber-espionage group, targets Indian government and the military. They want to know what those people that are locking up the journalists for the cow poop and urine story are thinking.
Do you think SideCopy is pro or anti-cow urine?
Probably anti.
I would think, yeah.
Maybe not.
So they did a lot of phishing and stuff like that, attacking people who are in all these various things. They haven't done anything, haven't gotten in any major way yet, but the Indian government has noticed. And in order to protect their infrastructure, they soaked all of the Ethernet cables in cow urine.
It was not effective.
Don't say that.
We've been banned. No.
Well, we had Mike Lindell's, what did he call his social media platform?
My Twitter.
It was, what was the name of it?
I can't remember now.
But anyway, I remember it launched, but it didn't really work. And a week later, it still hadn't. I don't know if it's functional now.
Oh, the one that he tried to use Drupal for? Yeah, that did not end well.
Yeah, and I don't think that's actually functional anymore. And you might be able to go there, but it certainly didn't take off. It's certainly not going to compete with Twitter at all. But they're going to try again.
Hackers scraped 90,000 GETTR user emails, surprising no one. Oh, they didn't just get the emails. They got everything that you put into the site. Just days after its launch, hackers have already found a way to take advantage of GETTR's buggy API to get the username, email address, and location of thousands of users.
So this was not actually a hack. This was
A feature.
Do you call them hackers? This was just an open API that was not properly secured.
Somebody was just using Postman to be like, hey, what does this do? Click, click, click. Oh, look at that. It's everything.
So they got pretty much everything. GETTR has responded, and they said it wasn't a hack, which is kind of true, and it wasn't that big a deal. They didn't get a lot of personal information.
It wasn't like Equifax or anything. What are you guys making a big deal about this?
Yeah, but they were already not being treated well by the media because, you know, it's kind of a dumb thing to do. Now they're just taking it even harder. They also sold this as like, well, maybe this will be Donald Trump's social platform. But I don't think he's ever endorsed it or anything.
Yeah.
No. No, he's still fighting to get back on the others.
All right. Now, debit card apps for kids. This is an interesting thing. I mean, I guess in the digital payment world, you do need your kid to have money somehow, right?
Yeah.
So what is the safest way to do it?
I
You
would
might,
think a Visa gift card, but
but you can't control what they do with that. They could do anything with that.
yeah.
So if you want to control things, maybe you look at something like this, but there's a catch.
Debit card apps for kids are collecting a shocking amount of personal data. Greenlight says it's not currently selling data on kids' spending habits to advertisers, but its privacy policy suggests that it could start any time.
I would say they could go ahead and just say that they will start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We just haven't
Assume
found
that's
a-
already happening.
We just haven't found a buyer yet. That's the plan. That's the business model. What are you talking about?
The lawyers are doing their due diligence. They're making sure that we have deniability. But once we figure that out, we're going to do it. So they do offer controls, and you can get, it reports back to you whenever your kid spends money on something. What a dark timeline.
Just get a gift card.
Or cash. I mean, I guess they could use cash for things you don't want them to, right?
I mean, that's true of most gifts. Like, yeah, I got
Well,
you a pool noodle, and now you're hitting your sister with it.
You're not going to buy meth with your Visa card. Now, you buy some, laundry detergent, trade it for some meth. Huh? License plate cameras, we've talked about ad nauseum. I mean, how many different stories have we done about license plate cameras? This doesn't really give us a lot of new information on that type of thing, but it shows us the scope of license plate cameras, at least in Chicago.
License plate cameras can help police, but privacy concerns raise a call for regulation. This is our twice-yearly story about the successes of license plate scanners scanning millions of license plates. They found a stolen car at a gas station.
Wow, what a victory for them.
But they do point out that not only do every police car has one, there are any kind of mounted camera that the city owns, that's also doing it. But there are private agreements for private companies who are also reporting back this kind of thing.
Neat. What could possibly go wrong?
So when you're driving through a parking lot, chances are you are getting license plate scanned.
And no one would ever abuse that, not estranged boyfriends or ex-husbands or anything to track your movement. That would never happen.
Remember those cops that got in trouble?
For literally that in every state?
Well, they were running plates for other people for cash.
Yeah.
Oh. But you got to have a database to run them against, don't you? Should have put this one earlier. This was one of the biggest stories in the security this week.
Scale and details of the massive Kaseya ransomware attack emerged. So if you've been living under a rock, ransomware was deployed because the bad guys got into a managed service provider that makes the Kaseya software, which a lot of smaller companies use to manage their clients' stuff. So about 1,000 companies, 10,000 plus computers were affected by this. They want $50 to $70 million for a universal decryption key, and they're hoping that a government will step up and do this.
I did see that they brought their number down.
It was from 70 to 50.
Yeah.
So,
but they certainly, I think almost every country in the world was affected.
yeah.
So they certainly have the scope.
Yeah, if you use this kind of software to manage your infrastructure, chances are you had a lot of computers. So,
do you think there's still, like on Monday, everybody's going to come back to work and there's going to be somebody in the stand-up meeting who's going to be like, we have to back everything up. I've been screaming this for look, and they're like, we don't really have that in the budget right now.
yeah.
We'll pay that ransom, though.
Yeah. Well,
50
not now.
mil.
Yeah, I mean, it's too much work to deal with it on an
Now,
individual basis.
If you buy the key, do you give it away? Or are you like, hey guys, you're going to have to chip in here?
Yeah, that's what the attackers were saying is like, you're all going to have to come together and to pay the ransom. Then we'll give you a universal decryptor.
The ransomware was about the friends we made along the way.
But then it's going to be like when you're splitting a check at a restaurant. It's like, guys, I just had coffee.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
I've
really?
only got 200 computers. I shouldn't have to pay.
You had a lobster.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. We'll be seeing a lot more of that. Another bad Google Play app. This is really, really getting to be an old story.
Apps with 5.8 million Google Play downloads stole users' Facebook passwords. Researchers uncovered 9 apps that used a sneaky method to pilfer their credentials. I looked into this. How it works is it actually does use the Facebook Connect library, but it injects its own JavaScript library, which sniffs the page. And that would be very kind of sort of tricky. Like, it looks like that if you're doing that for legit purposes as well as doing that for illegitimate purposes. So using that, they could sniff your credentials and pass it on to criminals, which is what the article says they did.
Also, these were not Facebook-related apps. These were full-featured apps that did a variety of other things and apparently worked pretty well, but they offered you some extra functionality if you joined your Facebook account. That's where they got you.
Never do it.
Oh, it's the same story.
Yeah, that's the MSP again. So if you've invited an Echo device into your home, if Alexa is in your home, you need to be concerned because obviously these things are, how long do you think the average consumer would keep an Alexa before getting the new model?
6 months.
Wow, really think it's that low?
I'd say at least a year. Maybe 2 years. Like, same thing as like a phone, 2 to 3 years maybe.
And I would say that, like all consumers, they will dutifully dismantle it, take out the lithium battery, have that properly disposed of.
Have it crushed into dust.
Right? I mean, everybody does that, right? So this is really not a risk.
Thinking about selling your Echo Dot or any other IoT device, read this first. So the researchers here bought a bunch used, like 70 some, and 61% they were able to recover basically everything. And the really exciting thing that they were able to do with these is they could read the information from the device about what Wi-Fi network name and password it expected. Then they were able to set up their own Wi-Fi network with the same name and password. And then you plug this thing in, it'll happily join that network, and it's linked up to somebody's Amazon account. You say, hey, Alexa, order me 50 pounds of Haribo gummy bears. And it will say, yes, that is no problem. I will be glad to do that.
And this is after a full factory reset. Turns out the NAND memory, because they are trying to prolong the life of it and not wipe it when they can just leave the data there, on a factory reset, it does not zero anything.
Although with the factory reset, you do have to take it apart to get the data. But a lot of people don't even bother with the reset.
Well, who cares? I mean,
if you're desperate enough, yeah.
If I'm filtering through landfills for Alexas, that's what I'm doing this for. So I would recommend smashing it.
Well, that's what Amazon would want anyway. So
never ordering it.
There's no resale market for these. That's how it goes.
Actually, I would recommend not buying one.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the first step.
Or build your own.
Or go in and modify it to put a different kind of old storage in there instead of the NAND. Have it running on a mechanical hard drive.
Oh, that would be cool. Like we always talk about legislation and standards. It would be so awesome if all of the permanent storage in all devices was mandated to be a removable standard format. That it would be upgradable, but also you could take your information out and be sure that it's not retaining anything.
Form factor is going to be a problem with those little tiny devices, though.
Oh, micro SD card fit anywhere.
Yeah, it's fine now. But 10 years from now, they're going to be something else.
It'll be like SIM adapters. We had SIMs, and then we had SIMs, and then SIMs, and then nano SIMs. And then it'll be like that.
I'm not going to hold my breath for that. And this one is not a hack and not an exploit, not even an intrusion. This is just a horrible, horrible thing that a company is doing that you can't stop. You can opt out, but it's by default, this is turned on.
Intuit to share payroll data from 1.4 million small business owners with Equifax. That way Equifax has got information about your salary and your credit report and all that. Equifax, those wonderful stewards of security and, how else are they going to do this?
Remember those headlines where it's like, can we ever trust Equifax again?
The answer is yes.
No, the answer is no.
No, the answer is yes for these people, though.
We can't trust them, but we're forced to.
Yeah. They don't care.
So yeah, if you are a QuickBooks user, you might want to go in and turn that off.
QuickBooks Online Payroll.
So they point out how a lot of the bigger ones are already doing this, but this is, this will catch all the, whoever's left in the middle class. Yeah. There's not many of us. And this one has already been mitigated, but wow.
No, it hasn't.
What a flaw. Overwhelmingly a bad thing that can happen, and most people have this turned on and don't even think about it.
If the Revel thing didn't ruin your holiday weekend, how to mitigate the Microsoft Print Spooler vulnerability print nightmare? The answer is still turn off the print spooler and don't print anything. Microsoft issued a patch. The patch didn't fix it. People noticed. And it was like, oh crap, we notified people that this exists, and it's a 4-alarm fire. It's very bad. Let's issue another fix. And then they sent that fix out. And then guess what? That didn't fix. And then they did another fix. That was yesterday morning. Everybody's computers rebooted. Guess what's still not fixed?
And this is full. If you can get anything on that print spooler, you can get full administrative access. Isn't it the domain controller?
If you have a domain controller that is also a print server, you're SOL.
Yeah, so they do have some recommendations here, which is basically, open up PowerShell, turn that shit off.
Yeah, don't worry about printing for right now. It's fine. This is just another data point that proves that printers are an invention of Satan.
Also, you have to have the print spooler to use PDFs.
Yeah.
To print to PDF, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
We should just stop using paper.
I like this image, though. That's a nice image.
Yeah. I like that the line art is a little bit like kind of crooked and underdeveloped, like the patches they made to fix this.
The printer looks really sad.
Yeah.
The printer is sad. Its existence is pain.
Let me die.
Wouldn't all printers be sad?
Yeah.
Why would a printer be happy?
Yeah.
Maybe if it really enjoyed the content that was printing.
There's only one printer that has ever been happy, and that was the HP LaserJet 4SI. And anybody that has experience with that printer knows why that printer is the happiest printer on earth. There has never been a better printer since.
It's a hot take. I hope we get a lot of comments about that.
It is the gold standard to which all printers throughout time and space should be judged. There should be alien civilizations that develop their own printing technologies that come here and say, Yes, these Earthlings on Earth, they developed the HP LaserJet 4 SI, and it is a legendary device for transferring print to physical paper.
That's your comment bait for today, chat.
What are we going to drink tomorrow? Is it going to be the balls, or is it going to be the blood orange Focus? Stay tuned.
For more.
Or if you're on Patreon and Flipplane, you find out right now.
Bye.